What about you?
When a massive desert storm transports an elite team of United States Army Rangers to a strange and hostile new world, they discover that their modern firearms are no match for the colossal, prehistoric creatures that rule the land. Captain Artemis must join forces with a mysterious local hunter to master the art of monster hunting and find a way back home through an ancient energy-conducting tower.
Rathalos.
I say again, they will survive. Come on!
Hey guys, today we are venturing into a world where the monsters are larger than tanks, and the laws of physics seem to have been written by someone who really loved oversized cutlery. We are looking at the movie Monster Hunter from 2020, a film that takes the concept of a bad day at the office and turns it into a cross-dimensional struggle for survival. Before you head off, if you're enjoying the kind of content I make, please consider liking and subscribing. No pressure, but it truly helps me keep the action coming. Our story begins in a place far from our own, a vast sea of sand where a wooden ship is sailing across the dunes, as if the grains of sand were waves of water. This is not your typical cruise ship, as it is manned by a crew of rugged warriors who look like they have spent a lifetime fighting things that should not exist. The ship is suddenly attacked by something massive moving beneath the sand, a creature known as a Diablos. The sheer scale of the creature is terrifying as it erupts from the dunes, throwing the ship around like a toy. One of the crew members, a man we will later know as the Hunter, is separated from his group during the chaos. He is left alone in the vast desert, armed only with his wits and some very impressive-looking gear. Meanwhile, in our world, Captain Artemis and her squad of UN soldiers are out in the desert looking for a missing team of fellow rangers. The heat is shimmering off the sand, and the mood is tense. They find the remains of the missing team, but something is wrong. The vehicles are scorched and flipped, but there is no sign of an explosion or a conventional attack. Suddenly, a massive storm appears on the horizon, but this is no ordinary sandstorm. It is a swirling vortex of blue lightning and dark clouds that seems to defy the local weather patterns. The squad tries to outrun it in their Humvees, but the storm is too fast. The blue lightning strikes the ground with a deafening crack that rattles their teeth, and before they know it, they are pulled into the center of the electrical anomaly. The transition is violent, a kaleidoscope of blue energy and screaming wind that feels like being tossed in a cosmic dryer. When the dust finally settles, Artemis and her team find themselves in a desert that looks similar to the one they left, but the vibe is completely different. The sand is white and fine, and the landmarks have all changed. They try to call for backup on the radio, but all they get is a strange rhythmic static that sounds like the heartbeat of a planet. They soon realize they are not alone. As they explore the area, they find more ruins of the previous team, but they also find massive footprints that could not have been made by any animal known to science. These prints are deep and wide, suggesting a weight that would crush a modern tank. The silence of the desert is broken by a low, rumbling sound that vibrates in their chests, a tactile warning that something is watching them. Suddenly, the ground begins to shift and heave. The hunter, who has been watching them from a distance through a telescope made of monster bone, tries to warn them with a signal fire, but they mistake him for a threat. Their focus is quickly pulled back to the sand as a black Diablos bursts from the ground. The sound is an incredible roar, a screeching metallic wail that pierces the air. Artemis orders her team to open fire, but the bullets just bounce off the creature's thick, armored hide. It is like trying to stop a runaway train with a handful of pebbles. The Diablos moves through the sand with the grace of a shark, its massive horns cutting through the dunes. One of the soldiers is snatched up in an instant, the crunch of the impact echoing across the dunes. The team tries to use a rocket launcher, but the Diablos is too fast, diving back into the sand and erupting beneath them. The Humvee is tossed into the air with a atomic clearon, flipping over and over until it is a mangled wreck. Artemis and the survivors flee toward a rocky outcropping, hoping the solid ground will protect them from the sand-dwelling beast.
The rocks provide a temporary sanctuary, but they soon find that this world has dangers in every corner. They retreat into a dark cave system, the air thick with the smell of decay and something sweet and cloying. The silence in the cave is punctuated by a skittering sound, the rapid-fire clicking of many legs on stone. They turn on their tactical lights, the beams cutting through the gloom to reveal a nightmare. The cave is the nest of the Nursula, giant spider-like monsters with white translucent skin and glowing purple sacs. The soldiers try to fight back, but the Nursula are agile and use the shadows to their advantage. The sound of their webbing being fired is a wet, sticky thwip that is followed by the screams of the soldiers as they are dragged into the darkness. Artemis is stung by one of the creatures, a sharp prick that sends a paralyzing venom through her veins. She watches, helpless, as her teammates are cocooned in thick gray silk. This sequence feels more like a horror movie than an action flick, emphasizing the tactile grossness of the monster's biology. The way the Nursula move is jittery and unnatural, their multiple eyes reflecting the dim light of the flashlights. Artemis eventually manages to fight off the paralysis and uses her flare gun to create a momentary distraction. The whoosh of the flare lighting up the cave reveals hundreds of cocoons hanging from the ceiling, a grim reminder that they are just food in this ecosystem. She manages to escape the cave and stumbles back out into the blistering heat of the desert. But she is the only one left. The isolation is palpable as she wanders the dunes, her modern world equipment now useless against the primitive power of the new world. She is soon found by the hunter, and their first meeting is not a friendly one. Since they do not speak the same language, they communicate through the universal language of punching each other in the face. The fight is a brutal display of different styles. Artemis uses her military close-quarters combat training, while the hunter uses a more acrobatic and strength-based approach. The sound of their blows is heavy and dull, the thud of fists against armor and skin. They tumble through the sand, and at one point Artemis uses a chocolate bar as a peace offering. It is a small human moment in the midst of the chaos, a bit of gentle sarcasm from the movie suggesting that Hershey's is the ultimate diplomatic tool. The hunter is skeptical but hungry, and the two eventually form an uneasy alliance. He takes her to his hideout, a small cave filled with trophies and tools that tell the story of his life. Here we see the world building in full effect. Every piece of his gear is made from a monster. His armor is crafted from scales and bone, and his weapons are massive and intricate. He shows her a great sword and a set of dual blades, explaining through gestures that their guns are useless because they lack the elemental power needed to pierce monster hides. In this world, the monsters are the source of all power. Their fire, ice, and lightning are harnessed by hunters to create weapons that can actually do damage. It is a fascinating biological economy where nothing goes to waste. Artemis realizes that if she wants to survive and get home, she has to stop being a soldier and start being a hunter.
The training montage that follows is where we really get to see the rules of this new world. The hunter teaches Artemis how to use the dual blades, which are infused with the power of fire. She has to learn how to move with the weapons, using their weight to her advantage rather than fighting against them. The sound of the blades being unsheathed is a sharp metallic ring, and when they are activated, they sizzle with a magical heat. He also introduces her to the slinger, a multi-purpose tool worn on the wrist that can fire grappling hooks, rocks, or specialized ammunition. It is a piece of technology that feels both ancient and advanced, a testament to the culture of this world. They spend days practicing, and we see Artemis slowly adapt. She learns about the fire herbs and the moss that can be used to create explosive or distracting effects. The movie does a great job of showing the tactile nature of this world, from the way they prepare their gear to the way they track the monsters. The hunter explains that the Black Diablos is guarding the path to the Sky Tower, a massive structure on the horizon that is the key to the portal. The tower is a piece of ancient technology built by a civilization that knew how to manipulate the energy of the world. It acts as a focal point for the natural electrical storms that bridge the gap between dimensions. But to get to the tower, they have to kill the Diablos. The hunt for the Diablos is a masterclass in strategy. They do not just run at it with their swords. They use the environment and the monster's own biology against it. They find a spot where the sand is thin and the rock is sharp, planning to lure the beast into a trap. The sound design here is incredible, the low-frequency rumble of the Diablos moving underground, making the audience feel the vibration. Artemis uses her slinger to fire a sonic bomb, a device that creates a high-pitched screech that disorients the monster. The Diablos erupts from the sand, screaming in pain and rage. The battle is a frantic dance of dodging and striking. Artemis uses the dual blades to land a series of quick, fiery slashes on its legs, while the hunter uses his greatsword to deliver heavy, bone-crunching blows to its head. The clang of the sword against the monster's horns is deafening. At one point, the Diablos charges, its massive weight shattering the stone pillars around them. The dust and debris fill the air, making it hard to breathe or see. Artemis manages to climb onto the creature's back, a risky move that shows how much she has changed. She uses her knowledge of anatomy to find a weak spot in its armor, plunging her blades into the soft tissue behind its head. The creature lets out a final, earth-shaking roar before collapsing into the sand. It is a hard-won victory that solidifies the bond between the soldier and the hunter. With the Diablos dead, they make their way toward the Sky Tower. As they travel, the world-building expands even further. They encounter a group of other hunters, led by the Admiral, a man who looks like he has wrestled a dragon and won. He is played by Ron Perlman, who brings a certain gravitas and a magnificent wig to the role. The Admiral speaks English, much to Artemis's surprise, and explains that the Sky Tower was built by the ancients to protect the crossing between worlds. He tells her that the tower is powered by a Rathalos, the king of the skies. This monster is a massive red fire-breathing wyvern that is as intelligent as it is dangerous. The Admiral's ship is a desert-faring vessel that looks like a combination of a pirate ship and a tank. It is a beautiful piece of design that shows how the people of this world have adapted to their environment. We also meet the Meowscular Schiff, a palico, which is essentially a bipedal, muscular cat who cooks incredibly delicious-looking food. This is a direct nod to the fans of the games, and while it is a bit of a tonal shift, it fits perfectly into the weird and wonderful world-building of the film. The chef prepares a feast for the team, and the sound of the sizzling meat and the way the characters devour it emphasizes the importance of food and preparation in a world where you are always one step away from being eaten. The Admiral explains that the Rathalos is guarding the tower, and that its fire is unlike any fire on Earth. It can melt steel and vaporize rock. The plan is to attack the tower and use the portal to send Artemis back home, while also stopping the Rathalos from crossing over. The final battle takes place at the base of the Sky Tower, which is a marvel of ancient architecture. It is covered in glowing blue runes and hums with a power that makes the air crackle with static. The Rathalos arrives with a deafening whoosh of its massive wings, the air pressure alone knocking some of the hunters off their feet. This fight is on a completely different scale than the Diablos hunt. The Rathalos stays in the air, raining down balls of fire that explode like napalm. The sound of its fire breath is a roaring, jet-like sound that drowns everything else. Artemis and the hunter work together with the Admiral's team to ground the beast. They use ballistae mounted on the ships to fire massive bolts with chains attached, trying to snag the monster's wings. The metallic clang of the ballistae firing and the whistle of the bolts through the air add to the chaotic symphony of the battle.
The Rathalos is not just a brute, it is a tactician. It uses its fire to melt the chains and its powerful claws to rip apart the ships. The scene is a whirlwind of action, with hunters jumping from the ships onto the monster's back and being tossed into the air like ragdolls. Artemis finds herself face to face with the beast on the narrow walkways of the Sky Tower. She uses her slinger to swing across the gaps, the zip of the wire being one of the few sounds audible over the monster's roars. The Admiral uses a massive weapon that fires concentrated bursts of energy, hitting the Rathalos and causing it to crash onto the platform. The impact is a massive thud that shakes the entire tower. Artemis realizes that the only way to kill it is to get close and strike its fire sac when it is about to breathe fire. It is a suicidal move, but she is a ranger, and she does not back down. She waits for the moment when the monster's throat begins to glow with an intense internal orange light. The sound of the heat building up is a low-frequency hum that vibrates in the air. Just as the Rathalos opens its mouth to unleash hell, Artemis leaps into the air, her dual blades glowing white-hot. She strikes the fire sac, causing an internal explosion that sends the monster reeling. The explosion creates a surge of energy in the Sky Tower, and the portal begins to open. It is a swirling vortex of blue and white light that starts to pull everything toward it. Artemis is sucked into the portal, falling through a tunnel of light and sound that feels like a rewrite of the laws of physics. She wakes up back in the desert on Earth, but she is not alone. The Rathalos has followed her through the portal. The monster crashes into the modern world, and it is here that the film shows the contrast between the two universes. The Rathalos looks even more terrifying against the backdrop of modern military vehicles and helicopters. The sound of the monster's roar echoes off the canyon walls, sounding alien and wrong in our world. A squadron of fighter jets arrive, but their missiles are easily dodged by the agile wyvern. The jets are swatted out of the sky with a terrifying ease, the explosions of their fuel tanks looking small compared to the monster's fire. Artemis knows that the conventional military is doomed. She picks up her monster world weapons, which she somehow managed to keep during the transition. She is joined by the hunter, who has also jumped through the portal to help her. Seeing the hunter in our world, standing on top of a flipped Humvee with a bone sword, is one of those moments that is both awesome and slightly ridiculous.
They engage the Rathalos one last time on the scorched earth. The fight is more personal now, a clash of worlds. Artemis uses the environment to her advantage, leading the monster into a narrow canyon where its wings are a liability. The hunter provides a distraction, using his greatsword to draw the monster's attention. The sound of the sword clashing with the monster's scales is a sharp percussive sound that cuts through the roar of the wind. Artemis climbs the canyon walls and leaps onto the monster's head, delivering a final decisive blow to its eye. The creature lets out a gargantuan shriek and falls, its massive body creating a dust cloud that covers the entire area. The silence that follows is heavy, broken only by the crackling of fire and the distant sound of approaching sirens. Artemis and the hunter stand over the fallen king, a bridge between two worlds that should never have met. But the story does not end there. As they look toward the portal, another shadow appears. This one is even larger and more ominous. It is the Gore Magala, a dark six-limbed dragon that represents a whole new level of threat. It carries a virus that can infect other monsters and humans alike, a biological weapon from the new world that could devastate Earth. The Admiral jumps through the portal to join them, his massive weapon ready. The movie ends on a high-energy cliffhanger, with the three heroes charging toward the new threat as the screen goes black. This entire journey is a deep dive into the idea of a living, breathing ecosystem where every creature has a role and a specific set of biological rules. The new world is not just a backdrop, it is a character in itself. The way the sand moves, the way the plants grow, and the way the monsters interact with their environment all point to a world that has been evolving for millions of years. The technology of the hunters, which relies on the remains of the monsters, creates a cycle of life and death that is both brutal and beautiful. The Sky Tower serves as a reminder of an even older civilization that understood these rules better than anyone, leaving behind monuments of energy and stone that bridge the gaps between realities. The film captures the tactile essence of this world, from the heavy weight of the bone armor to the sizzling heat of the fire herbs. It is a place where you cannot just rely on a gun and a radio. You have to understand the heartbeat of the land and the roar of the beasts that inhabit it. The relationship between Artemis and the hunter is the emotional core, showing that even without a common language, the shared experience of survival and the respect for a formidable foe can create a bond that transcends dimensions.
As the dust settles on the scorched earth and the echoes of the monster's roars fade into the wind, we are left to ponder the thin line between our civilization and the untamed power of the natural world. This journey reminds us that while we often feel like masters of our domain, there are forces in the universe far greater than our technology and our weapons. It is a story of resilience and the human spirit's ability to adapt to the most alien of circumstances. In the end, we find that the greatest strength lies in our ability to forge alliances across the widest of divides. Monster Hunter serves as a vivid exploration of a world where humanity is no longer at the top of the food chain, forcing us to rethink our place in the ecosystem. It is a spectacle of imagination that blends high-octane action with a deep sense of wonder about what lies beyond our perception. Does our survival depend on conquering nature or finding a way to exist within its chaotic, beautiful laws?